Nostalgia in video games is probably the biggest double-edged sword that you can get. Yes, double-edged sword, not double-sided dildo with a YouTube article go fuck himself. Not really. Nostalgia in video games can be a good thing or a bad thing for the player, and you're going to see exactly why. Now, as we get into it, you see in the background that I'm playing Shadow of the Colossus, which I can't recommend high enough to anyone who hasn't played this game. Obviously, you have to keep in mind, the game is 13 fucking years old. Yes, it launched in 2005, just to make you feel old, motherfucker. The fucking White Sox swept the Astros in the World Series that year, and then the Astros turned to shit afterwards, and then they ended up winning the World Series 13 fucking years later. But in any event, it's an amazing journey of a game, so for anyone who wants to try something different and has never played this game, I can't recommend this game higher because it's a stunning game. Throw in the new graphics, the old kind of gameplay, the way that it had, the puzzles of seeing all the Colossi for the first time. This is top-notch shit, which brings me to the point of my video, the nostalgia of the game. Over the past few years, developers have been remaking and remastering old games or old franchise. I mean, shit, just a few weeks ago, I did a video on games that I would want to revive. Not remaster or remake the original, but revive so that people can enjoy certain games over the years. You see, Final Fantasy right now is giving almost all of their modern games an HD remaster, or in the case of Final Fantasy VII, the full complete remake treatment. You see the BioShock HD collection being offered, the Uncharted collection, the Halo HD collection. You know, it's becoming a theme that remastering amazing old games is a standard way of selling nostalgia these days. And don't get me wrong, I love some of these nostalgia games, and I'm going to be buying these as time goes on because some of these remakes are just that good. But it leads to the double-edged sword that I mentioned. If publishers and developers are seeing fans buy old games and old franchises that were already successful, why would you bother to invest in newer games? I mean, most games are already turned into sequels these days, especially games that are financially successful. So why are we seeing so many remasters these days? Simple. Money. And no, not the total greed like you would see from Activision and EA loot boxing the fuck out of us. But the reality is, it's another source of revenue for these developers. Now, depending on your view of video games today, this might be a good thing, or this might be a bad thing, hence the double-edged sword that I've been talking about. Today's video games and franchises demand far more quality than games in prior years. You know, you can't half-ass your way through animations like they did in Mass Effect Andromeda. You can artistically wow people, but you have to have a reason to play the game, not like No Man's Sky that looked amazing ahead of time but had almost no gameplay content. And you certainly can't fuck people over on the first two games of a franchise like Destiny and then sell us all the content and DLC later. That's not going to fly in the current generation. The expectation of games have risen over the years from gamers, and with that comes the need for more time to develop a quality product. Because let's be honest here for a second. Do you want a rushed game just so that you can play it early? Or do you want a completed and polished game that might just take a little bit longer to come out and release because they need more time to develop it? Most people will choose the completed game, which requires more time for studios to finish these games. The longer it takes a studio to make a top-notch game, the more money they're going to sink into development. As much as brain-dead idiots will argue this point, the longer a game stays in development, the more money it's going to cost to create that game. Because it's not the price of the software that costs that are going up. It's not the price on the powers of the PC and the Macs that are creating this game. It's actually the overhead costs that are going up dramatically. Salaries for tech jobs and programmers, I mean, they're always on the rise because good programmers are always in demand. Because think about it. Do you want a top-notch programmer or do you want an average programmer? I want a top-notch programmer if I'm making a top-notch game. That's going to cost you money. Benefit costs, they go up each and every year, which is another major added studio cost that they have to pay. Rent or property taxes if they own a facility, that's something that's always going up. So it's not just the development of the games that's costing more, it's your month-to-month overhead on what it takes to staff a studio these days. You remember when Call of Duty had Infinity Ward and Treyarch rolling out games in back-to-back years? You remember how rushed the products were feeling? How incomplete some of those games felt? You know, like they were just slapping shit together hoping it would work? Well, Activision saw that, and they made the decision to add a third studio to the development cycle. That's when we got to see Sledgehammer throw into the actual rotation of Call of Duty. And what did it do? It allowed Infinity Ward and it allowed Treyarch more time to make their games because they needed it. The more things gamers wanted in games, the more time it was taking for a product to actually roll out something quality. Just look at what it did for The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 was in development fucking forever. Why? because it needed to be a top-notch product. And when it released, it was a top-notch product. More and more games need more time to create some of these games. What does that mean? It means they need to fill their revenue gap somewhere. Where are they filling these revenue gaps? Where is the money coming in? DLC is only going to support you so long. You can only run DLC maybe a year, maybe 2 if it's a really good game. But how many games are able to sustain themselves with DLC for 4, 5, 6, 7 years? That doesn't happen very often. So the main place these studios are finding the extra revenue are coming with the remasters. Hey, look, Uncharted, one of the greatest series of all time. Why not just remaster it, make it the HD version, resell it for 40 bucks, and then people are going to go out and buy the game again. The BioShock collection, one of the greatest series you can ever imagine. They're rolling out in HD. Have we heard anything from BioShock over the years? No. I know they're in development right now. They are making another game. Well, the leftover studio that didn't get fucked over by the guy who wanted to close the shit. But essentially, they do need some money to hold them over while they're in development right now. A lot of the games that you're seeing need to roll out these HD remasters because they need to work on their current products. Not every studio can be EA Sports that rolls out Madden 15, 16, 17, 18, FIFA 17, 18, 19, 20. Those studios obviously have things in the pipeline that they know are going to be coming out on an annual basis. Not every studio has that ability. Because you don't have that ability, the best way to get quick money in are these remasters, are these remakes. So Shadow of the Colossus, which is one of the most popular games back 13 years ago, which won plenty of Game of the Year awards, was seen as a very good game to release as a remastered version. It's not going to take long. The bones of the game is already there. The development was already created. It's literally just touching up every single piece of the graphics to make it more of a modern game. And you have to realize, some of these games are also modernizing themselves with some of the controls. Shadow of the Colossus is a perfect example. The controls were set 13 years ago. Nowadays, they're offering updated controls where instead of X being the jump button, now you can change the controls to where triangle is the jump button. So even though they're just remastering certain things and adding graphics, they are taking time to improve certain things that have happened along the way. Now, of course, they didn't update that fucking jump that I posted last week because that fucking thing is still goddamn broken 13 fucking years later. Oh, don't even get me into that shit, man. So in any event, the double-edged sword are part of this. Yes, people want to play their old games. Yes, people want to see some of the fantastic HD remasters of some masterpieces that have been rolled out. But the reason why they're having to do this is because studios need that extra money. They need those extra revenue streams to basically pay for the current products that are going to take more time to put out. They need more money to put out some of the better things that are going to be coming out in the future. You can almost guarantee there is going to be a Mass Effect HD remastered version trilogy of the motherfucker, because at some point they're going to have to pay for Anthem. They're going to have to hope the sales of Anthem keep BioWare afloat. But in the meantime, why not roll out an HD remaster? Halo 7, 8, 9, 10, 35, whatever the fuck they want to come up with. It's in development, but they needed the Halo HD remaster a few years ago to make sure that they paid for these things. These are some of the common practices that studios are doing right now. It's not a bad thing that we're getting these remasters. It's not a horrible thing that we're getting these remakes, but you see the reason as to why we're doing it. Just look over the past few years. How many new franchises have come out and knocked it out of the park right away? Think about that for a second. How many major franchises have come out of the gate swinging? Destiny came out and sold a lot of games a few years ago, but it struggled ever since its launch. The Division topped Destiny in sales, but it struggled along the way. Now, obviously, it's had its little renaissance, and people are coming back to the game because Destiny's fucking up. But The Division struggled the first 6 months to a year after it was released. That was a bad time for that game. Anthem, another game on the clock as to whether or not it's going to be a future major hit. Horizon Zero Dawn managed to surprise the shit out of people. But on the flip side, for every game that has come out and turned into a success that has been able to make itself into a great franchise, you have games like The Order 1887 that didn't take off as well. Rome did not take off because of that whole Xbox Connect shit that really didn't work with the motherfucker. For Honor from Ubisoft had some great previews to it, but over along the way, a lot of people were like, yeah, this game's kind of average, it needs a lot more to it. So it's very hard nowadays to create an absolute masterpiece on your first attempt. Not every game is going to be Horizon Zero Dawn. And because of that, those extra revenue streams come in. They really help with the studio's development costs for future games. Now, obviously, if a new franchise takes off, hey, now you're going to have it paid over the next couple of years. But until that point, these remasters, these remakes, these 10-year-old games, 13-year-old games, 15-year-old games, these brand new trilogies that they want to roll out, buy all 5, 6, 7 games in the series for a low price of 40, 50 bucks. This is how they're funding themselves for the future. Depending on your view, whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, depending on whether or not you want to buy some of these HD remasters, that's all going to come down to whether or not you personally feel that this is a good idea or not. Personally, for me, as long as it's a game that I enjoy, I wouldn't mind the remaster, but you're not going to see me buy every single fucking remaster. For that, I could just go back and actually play them on some of my older consoles. But at least for the Shadow of the Colossus, this was one of the ones that was worth it, mainly because they were going to remaster some of the things that we just couldn't do on PlayStation 2. And now that you see the power of a PlayStation 4, oh yeah, this is the game. Certainly go out there. If you've never played this game before, you guys will be able to enjoy this motherfucker. So hopefully you guys understand why we're seeing some of these remasters and remakes over the past couple of years. So as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit. And I'll see you guys in the next video.